I searched around in regards to trying to get a hold of somebody. I even put it out there. I said, hey, I need a hoops talker, preferably college hoops. And of course, a lot of the friends have not chimed in or whatnot. I went to ESPN, I went to SI, I went to a couple of those guys, and from what I saw, they're all saying the same thing. And you know me, I'm kind of that guy that goes, it can't be that easy. Somebody out there's got to be able to say something different. So I took them there. So I took a little trip into a couple of other spots, and I found this guy, the CEO of Hardwood Hoops Central and the host of Beyond the Arc on Blog Talk Radio. Stephen Barnhart is on the line. If you missed it, he just went in on Oregon football just a bit, but we're going to switch gears and go to his wheelhouse. Stephen, an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program, sir.
No, I appreciate you guys for having me on. Thank you very much.
And no worries. So, hey, let's get into it. I'm looking at a top 25, at least according to AP, as well as a few others. Kentucky, Michigan State, Louisville, Duke, Kansas, with Arizona, Michigan, Oklahoma State, Syracuse, and Florida. Who makes the moves this year? What are we looking at this year?
Honestly, out of the top four, the team that intrigues me the most, the first two teams that intrigue me the most are Duke and Michigan State. Everybody's talking Kentucky, and we'll talk about them in a second. But for me, for Duke, you look at it, they're obviously getting one of the better overall prospects in the 2013 class. The only downside for them is they lose three of their top three scorers last year in Seth Curry, Mason Plumlee, and Ryan Kelly. But they bring in Jabari Parker and a redshirt freshman out of Mississippi State, and Rodney Hood. And I think these two guys, for what Duke historically likes to do, which is spread the floor, shoot the ball, and be able to really kind of fill it up in that regard. Those two guys are going to fit in really well. And then of course their two returning lead scorers, Quinn Cook and Rasheed Suleiman. They're going to be able to be there to kind of supplement all of that. And I think Cook had a bit of a breakout year last year. I mean, look at as well as he shot from the field. 37% from threes, and can shoot it from the line. So he'll be a welcomed return for that team. And I just think offensively and defensively, that's a team that automatically, you can't argue with their success historically. You can't argue with the fact that last year they made it to the Elite Eight. And then on top of that, in my opinion, they're coached by, I'm hesitant to not call Mike Krzyzewski the best coach in the world, regardless of pro or college. So, when you've got those kind of ingredients going on in a program that knows how to win, that's the first team I pay attention to in the top four. And then I look at a team like Michigan State, extremely versatile in terms of what they bring to the table. You're looking at a team that is extremely experienced. Keith Appling is going to be return guys for them. Last year, obviously, they lose in the Sweet 16. But they've got plenty of experience and depth. They bring in Davin Schilling from Finlay Prep and Matt Costello. Hopefully they'll be able to bring in some solid minutes and give this team some more depth in the front. I think that's probably going to be where their biggest weakness is. But, of course, you've got Adrian Payne, a 6'7" center that was a projected first-round pick in the last year's NBA draft. And, of course, they bring back, in my opinion, probably the best all-around sophomore in the conference in Gary Harris. I mean, his game has to take that next step. He was second on the team last year in scoring, just a little under 13 a game. I've got him as a possible Big Ten Player of the Year. You look at the depth, you look at the experience. They're returning a lot of guys. The biggest test, obviously, for them is going to come next Tuesday against Kentucky, where we'll kind of see where the youth and the experience, how that kind of stacks up against each other. So it's going to be a great test for Kentucky and for all the Kentucky fans who think that they should just go undefeated, like it's just all said and done, undefeated, 6 McDonald's All-Americans. I second guess that because people underestimate the fact that, listen, you have to have some sort of chemistry, and really the only guys that have legit chemistry on that team, from playing together, are going to be the Harrison twins. Obviously, they played high school together, played AAU together, so they've got the chemistry.
Right.
And you have to look outside of that and say to yourself, how do the rest of the guys fit and how do they step up and what kind of role are they going to fill? Because, again, you look at last year's team, people thought, it was going to be really good. Don't even make the NIT. Then you look at the John Wall-led team in 09, 010. they don't even, get to a championship game. So it's not as easy as stacking up a bunch of talent and saying, hey, go play. That would work in AAU, but we're talking high major college basketball. It doesn't work on that level.
Absolutely, and I still remember the cheers from a lot of my friends in Pittsburgh when Kentucky went down to a guy named Lucky Jones and the Robert Morris Colonials. I was like, wow, I could not believe that happened. Stephen Barnhart on the hotline with us talking college hoops. Okay, so you broke down the top five, and the one thing I do love is that next week, or I believe we're going to have what's called the Champions Classic, where the top ranked, the second ranked, the fourth ranked, and the fifth ranked teams are literally going to be looking at each other dead in the eyes going, okay, we got to beat you this time. Who out of the rest of the top 25, or even off the top 25, give me a team that's going to make some noise and make people go, what?
Okay, I'll do it. You guys are based in Colorado, right? So let's just go with Colorado. I think, you know what, looking at the Pac-12, first of all, the Pac-12 to me is probably the deepest conference in terms of just teams that can actually make the tournament. I've actually got them projected as at least 6, maybe a 7th with a bubble team. But Colorado's, in my opinion, got the hardest non-conference schedule. They're returning 4 of their top 5 starters. Obviously, their best player is Spencer Dinwiddie. And he broke out last year, and it's unique to have a 6'6" point guard who's as versatile as he is on both offense and defense. He's a guy who's long, who can get you almost 2 steals a game. The only thing about him is you just wonder about his consistency. Yes. Some games last year he would go for 20+, and then the next night he'd go for 5 or 6 points. So you wonder kind of about the consistency. Obviously, from there they lose Andre Roberson, who was third in the team in scoring last year, led the teams in rebounds and blocks. He's now with the OKC Thunder. But in the key additions department for them, they bring on a guy who was sitting last year in Wesley Gordon, a 6'9", 225 power forward. He's going to be a projected starter for these guys. Should be able to, bring some of the production that Roberson took with him into the draft. And then you look at some of the one guy that they bring in as a freshman, Trayshawn Fletcher. He's a 4-star power forward out of Washington. He's got a little bit of inside-outside game to them. Versatile kid. Should be a really good pickup for Colorado. Really, like I alluded to, my biggest question for them is, can they maneuver through what proves out to be a really tough non-conference schedule for them? But I like the guys that they're returning. I just like what they're doing with that program. So for me, I probably got them finishing 3rd in the Pac-10. They're not currently ranked in the preseason top 25, but preseason top 25 rankings are about as useful as used toilet paper. So I don't pay attention to it.
I definitely dig that. Remember watching Wesley Gordon and Josh Scott go at it. They're based right out of here in Colorado Springs. One went to Sierra High School, the other one went to Lewis Palmer, and now they're teammates at CU. It's gonna be crazy. Speaking of player spotlights, I've been hearing so much about this kid in Kansas, Andrew Wiggins. Give me the straight dope, Stephen. Is he the truth or not?
I think he's going to be the truth at the NBA level. I think he's not quite there yet to make the kind of impact people are expecting for a one-and-done year in Kansas. You have to remember, Kansas is really loaded, and Kansas is going to be relying on possibly 3 freshman starters when you talk about Wayne Selden, when you talk about Joel Embiid, and, of course, Andrew Wiggins. They've got some guys they're going to be bringing back, obviously, in Tariq Black. And the biggest thing for Kansas is not even going to be the front court play. It's going to be how well they can get point guard production. But as far as the Big 12 goes, I mean, they've been dominant. They're going for the 10th straight, Big 10 title. And really, the only team I can see possibly even giving them some sort of scare would be Oklahoma State. And I think Oklahoma State is a little too thin up front to really be able to do anything with Kansas long term. But in terms of Andrew Wiggins, I mean, look, he's got all the accolades. He's got all the hype. I mean, you got to think, Jabari Parker on the front of Sports Illustrated next to LeBron James. Andrew Wiggins reclassifies. Now all of a sudden, who is Jabari Parker? All of a sudden he gets bumped down to number 2 prospect, and you really don't hear anything about him anymore. Nobody talks about him because it's all Andrew Wiggins. To me, he's got to become a better passer. He's got to get better with his handles. And if I'm looking at superstars, I tell guys all the time, I like for guys to have a crisp Chris Bryant mentality, a combination of Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
Enough to where Chris Paul off the court loves you, on the court wants to kill you, but can get others involved. But when it comes time to taking a big shot, a la Kobe, goes out and tries to kill you. It doesn't matter if it's his mama garden. So I look at Andrew Wiggins and I say, can he get to that? Because that'll be the difference for me, between him becoming a superstar in the NBA and just being a star. And that's where the questions I lie with that is. I mean, he's a really shy and humble kid from everything I've heard and read, and people who are close to him that I've talked to, and which is great. I mean, obviously you want guys to be, good players, good guys off the court, not get in trouble and those sort of things. But I just I wonder if with all the accolades and everything like that, does a guy like that get complacent? Does he actually look to take that next year to the next level? And that's going to be the difference between him being the kind of guy people are expecting him to be and the guy that he more than likely will be. So we'll see. There are definite aspects of his game. I've seen him live, and I told people watching him dunk is like watching me or you walk up to a Fisher-Price rim with a little ball and just dunking. I mean, he gets off the floor that well. And you don't see that very often. His athleticism is otherworld. So he's got the actual physical tools and the gifts to be able to play at the next level and actually be a starter. But we'll see kind of where his game goes and where it transforms to.
I got you there, Stephen Barnhart on the hotline with us. I got you there as far as Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker and a couple of those other guys who are basically 1 year or 2 years into college. Tell me this as far as true or false, and then explain why. Are we looking at the lost art form of the college senior basketball player?
To be honest with you, pretty much. I mean, you're not going to find too many Tim Duncans anymore, So I think where it hurts the game is, people who are avid college basketball watchers and love that. Because let's face it, people who like football, some really like NFL, don't really like college, and vice versa. Same thing with the NBA and college. Some people just really dig the college vibe, and when it gets to the pro level, they're just kind of like, I'm okay, no big deal. So what you miss is being able to see these guys develop in front of your eyes. I miss that because being a scout for Hardwood Hoop Central, watching high school players, you like to see guys develop. But because I watch so much basketball at all levels, I get to see guys develop regardless. But I think as a casual fan, or if you're a fan of college over pro or vice versa, you kind of miss out on some of the actual development, which, to be honest with you, is really cool to see how guys can go from basically being this hype-filled player into actually being a legitimate producer at the next level and actually seeing what guys can be. Because hype is one thing, but actual reality is quite the other. And the reality is obviously is what people end up seeing and what you end up actually getting from that player. So, to be honest with you, I think it is going to be a lost art. You're still going to see some guys obviously do it. But I think for the most part, guys are looking at it from the standpoint of, let me go and get the development I need, whatever's necessary, and let me go ahead and get drafted in a favorable draft. So I think that's more along with the mindset is these days, especially for high major basketball players.
Yeah, definitely there. See, this is why I go out and do all the work for you guys and all you listeners. I want to find guys like Stephen Barnhart and others who can come on, drop knowledge, drop mic, and then leave you with everything that you need. That's Stephen Barnhart, CEO of Hardwood Hoops Central and host of Beyond the Arc. You can catch him. I believe you can catch him on Blog Talk Radio. If you got any other info, Stephen, how can any of my guys get a hold of you?
First of all, Hardwood Hoop Central, you can find us online, hardwoodhoopcentral.com. You can follow me on Twitter, at HW Hoops Central. You can follow my Blog Talk Radio show, Beyond the Arc, at BTA Hoops. Or you can catch us on our Blog Talk Radio. We do shows kind of when and where we can, but you can always check up for updates at blogtalkradio.com/Beyond the Arc.
Show's awesome, man. I actually heard the last few of them that you guys do an awesome job, and who knows, we may be able to coach you to come over to the dark side, come with us a little bit.
We'll see. Hey, we're working to see what we can make out of that show, and obviously Blog Talk has provided a great platform, but we got into this anticipating bigger and better things, so we'll see where it goes. All
right, we'll definitely be in touch. I appreciate you coming on. Definitely, it's going to be the start of something big. I appreciate it, Steve.
Not a problem, man. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.